I can't see anybody. All right. Okay. Hello, everybody. And here we are. Jean Renoir's silent film career is indelibly marked by the screen presence of Catherine Hessling, his young wife and star. La Fille de l'Eau, Nana, Charleston, The Little Match Girl are unthinkable without her, and they are the best remembered of his films before sound. In the 1930s, though, while Renoir became one of the most important directors in film history, Hessling all but disappeared from view. Her leading roles in Alberto Cavalcanti's films, don't worry about the titles, you will get these later, La Petite Lily, Yvette, En Rade, Little Red Riding Hood, going up to 1930. Those Cavalcanti ones have faded from memory. And also, she played a spunky circus girl in a film called The Pursuit of Happyness, directed by Rokas Gliza, better known as the art director for Sunrise, with Lottie Reininger, partly because those films became impossible to see. Her career ended in small dialogue parts in Pabst, High and Low, which we saw the other day, and Pierre Chanel's Crime and Punishment in 1935. Both of those are French films. Before she worked in the cinema, André Hessling, which was her birth name, was Pierre-Auguste Renoir's favorite model, working for him from early 1915 until his death in December 1919. And that is how his son met her. According to art historian Barbara Ehrlich White, Hessling, Dede, as she was called, posed for at least 100 of the artist's paintings. An astonishing number, says White, for Renoir to have undertaken in the fewer than 5 years that remained in his life. In later years, perceptive commentators tried to grasp something elusive about Hessling's performances. Georges Franjou, thinking about La Fille de l'Eau, wrote, Catherine Hessling, with her beautiful blind eyes, her bird-like walk, resembles one of these strange little gypsies of whom one does not know whether to say she is a fairy or a streetwalker. André Bazin described her as, quote, an astonishing girl, her huge clear eyes heavily outlined in black, her face like a doll, her body imperfect and strangely articulated, like women in certain impressionist paintings. It combines in a disturbing way, or she does, her body, the mechanical and the living, the ethereal and the sensual, in a strange incarnation of femininity. In 1938, Jean Renoir gave her full appreciation, remembering the certainty that he and his wife shared that their most ambitious film by far, Nana, would be a success, only to be rejected by the establishment, especially Hessling's incarnation of Zola's Nana. And Renoir said famously, my first efforts are, in my opinion, without interest. They are only worthwhile at all because of Catherine Hessling's acting. She was a fantastic actress, much too fantastic for timid French merchants. That's why she disappeared. Unlike what we might imagine today, Hessling was called a star very quickly. Given her importance for Renoir's vocation when he was attempting to condense French, German, and American models of filmmaking in his own films, and not to mention others later, it can be enlightening to track French and German critical pictorial discourse on Hessling throughout the 1920s, including in women's magazines. What I have to show you is mainly from the interest that I got in looking at publicity materials around Catherine Hessling. And it started with this particular book, which is Pierre Braunberger's memoirs. It contains, as you see on the right-hand side, this black and white, it's a cover of Catherine Hessling and it dates from June 1929. This was a date that I found very surprising. I wouldn't think that she would have been called a star that late. And this is what the full cover actually looks like. It says, Catherine Hessling, protagonist of Little Match Girl, Nana, Petite Little Lily, Enrad, and Little Red Riding Hood. It's an interesting mixture of titles, too. It's not in chronological order, and it's a mixture of Renoir and Cavalcanti. So don't be afraid of this, but I thought to give you an idea of the chronology, I'm going to do this again at the end. I just want to show these films with her and without her. So you get a sense of her career trajectory. And then those were the films that she starred in, the ones that she was in, and then non-starring roles in these two. Here is a picture that I found very strange when I saw it, and actually I find very strange every time I look at it, namely Auguste Renoir with his model, Dédé, who's going to become, she's going to become transformed into Catherine Hessling. So the photograph here, this woman here, doesn't look like Catherine Hessling at all in any of the movies we've seen. And as is typical of Renoir's paintings, the painting doesn't resemble the model either. But the painting resembles basically all of his paintings of this favorite model of his at the end of his career. I'm just showing a couple of things from this first film that Renoir hired Albert Dieudonné, another director, to shoot. That started out being called Catherine, and but to show you, you can just see in that little picture there how different already Catherine Hessling looks. And here are just a couple of frame grabs from Catherine. It'll become transformed later, released maybe much later by Dieudonné as Life Without Joy. But I'm kind of skipping it because it's Renoir's training film, we could say. He interfered a lot, and this is the film that's really Renoir's first film. And it's Hessling's first cover of many. Now, granted, Renoir was followed by the editor of Cinea very closely, but still he's covered very much. So here's Hessling as she looks in her first film, and here's a little clip to give you a sense of her screen presence, how she moves, and the ambience around her as well, which she's really good at making ragu by mixing together dubious ingredients. Since he was very young, George's father loved botany. The sky became menacing. This may remind you of another movie, actually. And actually, her father is about to die, having fallen overboard. Here's another magazine cover. This is about that film, Fille de l'eau, a very moving film by Jean Renoir. And this is Another kind of publicity page, aside from all the covers I ended up finding in period magazines that have full-page Hessling and something about her, there are these star pages inside. So this is an example of one of those. This Fidelot curious film by Jean Renoir, a talent full of freshness and a very strong sense of expression. And just to show the kind of publicity, Ciné Magazine is another one of the big industry journals, less avant-garde than Cinéa. Now, this is Hessling at the time of La Fille de l'Eau. As you can see, she doesn't look like the character that she was playing in that movie. She doesn't look like the model for Auguste Renoir. She looks like a fashion model, and indeed there are going to be many photographs of her in magazines showing her like that. Don't forget, she learned how to pose very early. It was a kind of two-way street, and I'm arguing that the same happened with Renoir, that she was a kind of creative model and a creative actress, that Auguste Renoir, according to his son anyway, loved the way that she posed for him, and he, in a sense, adapted his positioning of her by her own positioning. But at any rate. Okay, Nana deserves a discussion because this marks a real watershed in Renoir's career and Hessling's career. It was hugely promoted by the press and paid for a lot, especially up until the point of release, and by Renoir. Renoir paid for all of his first films himself. This is an international co-production thanks to Pierre Braun-Berger. By now, he was his distributor. By now, he's his producer. Braun-Berger, a very close friend of Renoir his whole life. And Werner Krauss, famous from Caligari, one of the most important stage and theater actors in Germany. There's going to be another important German actor in the film, Valeska Garrett, cabaret star. But here we go into Nana, and we just need to spend a little bit of time with this. So it was covered by the German press, too. And this is the front page of the most important German trade magazine, calling Nana a European film. They're not calling it an international co-production, it's a European film. And then one of the many, many different looks that Catherine Hessling adopted or created, according to Renoir, every day when they were planning this whole thing, she was creating a new way that Nana could be during the film. So to give you an idea here. This is Valeska Garrett, her chambermaid. Her. Francis, hand me the comb. Nana premiered for industry professionals and the press at the Moulin Rouge Music Hall on April 27, 1926, following months of magazine cover photos, press reports, and interviews. Applause was mixed with confusion and even outrage, even more than Renoir's departure from Zola's much-loved novel. The flashpoint that divided critics and audiences was the casting of Hessling as the outrageously exhibitionistic prostitute turned courtesan central character. Small, dark, and unwelcoming, Hessling's Nana is the opposite physical type from what Zola had imagined, and her body, far from the cool nakedness the novelist had pictured, is hidden in sumptuous tight-waisted costumes with long hanging sleeves that swirl around her as she twists and turns, her sweeping skirts revealing glimpses of parts of her legs and beautiful shoes. She seduces by withholding herself, apparently uninterested in sexuality in the usual sense, or men in any sense, except for the money they bring and for temporary diversion. Her movements, like her moods, are unpredictable, often sharp and quick, like her facial expressions, which are openly scornful, distorting her features. Hessling's stylized acting in this film harks back to the exaggerated, almost inorganic movements of some of the characters in Robert Vina's expressionist film, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Her power lies in her calculated use of her own artificiality. I think I'm just going to step through a couple of these. That show you different facets of the kind of character that she keeps readopting throughout the whole film in concert with Renoir, is my view. And so, great film, great. This is Minerva. I thought this is interesting. This is from a lot of these are from the Renoir collection at UCLA. This is a women's supplement, and great stars of the cinema. Well, at this point, Catherine Hessling wasn't known as a great star, but she was being promoted as a great star, basically from the beginning. And even here, as a mother on the bottom left, which she was not famous for, and different aspects of her in Nana. So the thing about Nana was that it was the most ambitious film that Renoir had attempted. It lost money. It made him afraid to do something like that again, that ambitious again. It was shot in both France and Germany. It was very expensive, and it was, a big risk. And Nana, or Catherine Hessling, had to carry the whole movie. So when you get away from the covers and you start looking at the actual critics, what they're saying, which can't be possibly just paid advertising because they're too differentiated, they're really interested in Hessling. Every single one is very interested in Hessling, whether they don't like her or whether they do like her. So I just have these four I'm going to read you, and then we'll move ahead. Okay, so here's one in Cinea, which we've already seen is a magazine that's following Renoir closely. So the quote is, without worrying about ordinary charm, this is Hessling, as Nana, without worrying about ordinary charm, with that facile grace that can sometimes be the opposite of the truly photogenic, the artist constructed her role with such care for truth that we can see the most admirable effort of identification ever realized on the screen. An artist who consents to make herself ugly, at least to torture her body and her face in order to express a type, always earns the right to our esteem. But Catherine Hessling was not satisfied with constructing her role. She lived it profoundly, intensely, as a great tragedian. So that's May 1920. And then in Courrier Cinématographique, this is a Union Journal that we saw the cover of, the crushing role of Nana was played by Madame Catherine Hessling, who made every effort to give it all its odious character. Let's say that she fully succeeded, and that several scenes attained the depths of abjection. Among others, when she holds Mufa humiliated beneath her feet, as you saw a minute ago, and the can-can at the Bal Mabille. These tableaux have an agonizing realism and do honor to the artist who is not afraid to interpret them with such sincerity. And another kind of magazine, a fan magazine in a way, Mon Film. But isn't the revelation of the day, this is after praising Renoir, isn't the revelation of the day rather Catherine Hessling, who with this single performance has been elevated to the rank of a great star? Catherine Hessling, a strange and vibrant Nana, will be the public's darling tomorrow. And then the last one is from a magazine called Yves. Renoir's partner, Madame Catherine Hessling, has completely modernized the role of Nana. From the beautiful girl in the novel, buxom and vulgar, she has created an equivocal theater actress, neurasthenic and rather delicate. We could argue about this modern transposition of a character forever. Regardless, it is a gripping composition that does the greatest honor to the sensitive, intelligent, and picturesque artist that is Catherine Hessling. So, Renoir published a whole article about why he made the film. There they are at home. And outlining there why he decided to depart from the norm, of Nana, what you would expect, that he did it purposely. And here's Eve, illustrated as you can see. Okay. Now, from Nana, it wasn't clear what Renoir wanted to do or what Hessling wanted to do. But from the evidence, it seems that Hessling wanted to continue in an ambitious way as an actress. But somehow they came up with this Charleston. And it's not clear whether it was really finished. The music was never done for it. And it's not clear how exactly it came about, except that it was very much impressed by jazz music, which both Hessling, Renoir, and their friend Jacques Becker loved. And maybe it was Becker who persuaded this man, who is a real professional dancer, Johnny Hudgens, African-American, working with the Revue Negre in Paris. And he performed in blackface like he is here. At any rate, he crosses the skies, he's a scientist. This is a race reversal, role reversal, everything. He's the intelligent scientist. He lands in Paris, it's ruined. He gets invited to the dance, and he joins her. And that's Charleston. Okay. Then we get to something really different, which is this film that she did with Cavalcanti, En Rade. And this is a Seaport Drama. I'm sorry for what must look really bad, but this came from YouTube. to give you an idea of a different kind of character and acting. This is a feature film, and she has a lead role. Go away. Here's another fashion page from Inside Cinea from 1927 in March. And she's dressed for the role that, which is like a jazz age kind of fashion role in the next feature film that she made with Cavalcanti called Yvette. And here, I think the description is something that you see. She's either curious, she's really interesting, she's unusual, like that. And she loves wearing fashions. And here's another kind of striking shot from Yvette. In Yvette, it's about two women who live in this house on the outskirts of someplace, and rich men come in every night and dance with them and are entertained by Hessling and the other woman, but Hessling falls in love with one of them, and it looks like it will end badly. So This is an entirely different kind of film that Cavalcanti made, and as you can see, it had important music, and this music stayed with it. This music should be on. So take a look at this. Oh, this is a sing-along, so you can, if you know the song. Oops. She lost both her parents. She's a simple seamstress. That, of course, is Jean Renoir. You have to watch her go down the sidewalk. Always pretty, petite. An angel is passing in life. This is an interesting page. I thought this is 1929, so again, this is much later than anybody these days, for sure, is thinking that Catherine Hessling is a star. And Mon Ciné, this magazine, had a special feature, their faces. And so each, I forget, week, maybe, it'd be a different actress and then different roles. So these are 4 of her different looks, including En Rade. Okay. This is just to say that The Little Match Girl should have been earlier. It got released later. And I'm just showing you a couple of frame enlargements from it, because hopefully you've seen it. And then, so again, she's described as the very sensitive actress of The Little Match Girl, is now shooting with Cavalcanti and Jean Renoir on what we would call Little Red Riding Hood. This is the middle of 1929, and it's that same issue that I showed you the cover of before. This is kind of interesting. This is that same month in Cinea, and what are they doing? It's so you can see Hessling and Cavalcanti and Renoir all on the same page. What are they doing? This Little Red Riding Hood, which is unfortunately, apparently, a lost film, or we don't, if anybody has it, let us know. So, but it's most of the short films that Cavalcanti did have Renoir in them, and sometimes maybe doing more than acting. So we have some pictures, and I have no idea what order these should be in, so I put them in this order. Renoir is the big bad wolf. And close-up, that means, close-up is the, Swiss, UK magazine, very chic. And that means, effectively, that means international Cine Club distribution. Now, this is a really beautiful picture. It's a little earlier, actually, 28. Yeah, so it's as Yvette. This happens a lot with these pictures. She's pictured wearing the costumes from one movie, and she's about to be in another one. So this is, again, this is advertising The Little Match Girl, which was delayed, as we just saw, but she's not wearing her costume from that. And then here again is this cover shot, which is from the middle of June 1929, and has these titles, selected titles from among the clips that you just saw. This is to show you that some of these things were picked up and had distribution in later, like continuing distribution in the Cine Club circuit here or there, and sometimes part of a film. I thought it was interesting that the Film Courier, the trade journal, when they're doing an article on Renoir, he's going to be working on a film, a German film. They call him Catherine Hessling's husband. So Jean Renoir, avant-gardist, actor, and director. He's in Berlin again. He goes to Berlin every now and then. And now this is another formidable person, Lotte Reininger, incredibly well known at this time for her silhouette animation films, especially The Adventures of Prince Ahmed, 1926. Initially, there was a lot of press on this movie, and called The Hunt for Happyness. And when it was first announced, it was announced that Lotte Reininger had a new film, and her film was going to be this Hunt for Happyness, and it was going to be a feature film, not just an animated film. This is the invitation to the premiere in 1930 in Berlin. You can see the German title of it, and you can see that both Hessling and Renoir have major parts in this. This is another, alas, lost film we hope will be discovered. There's actually a lot of documentation on this particular one. There's one part that does survive and that has been revived, and that is that there's a film within the feature with actors and everything, takes place in a fairground. There's a film within the film that's a silhouette film that Lotte Reininger created, and that was taken out and shown in cineclub circuits. And it still survives. It's with a huge amount of work has been done restoring Reininger's work. So you can see Hessling and the different kind of characters she's playing here. You can also see Renoir. And again, I don't know what a good order would be for these, but, and this is a cartoon showing how hard it was to get this film made because everybody seemed to be arguing with everybody. It was a German film. It was shot in southern France, international cast, and apparently it was released too late in terms of the coming of sound, or at least that's what's said. I don't know why we can't find it at this point. Now, Hessling's career as a star came to a close with this particular movie. To my knowledge, she had only 2 more roles left before her film career ended. They're non-starring roles, but they are substantial and with dialogue. So one is in the Pabst film that was shown the other day, High and Low, du haut en bas, 1933, and the other is in Pierre Chanel's Crime and Punishment, 1935. And I have a clip, miserable quality, but maybe better than nothing, from We Need Sound with this. This is from High and Low, Hessling and Gabin. Didn't you notice anything new about me? I have a new dress. I'm going away. Okay, so here again is your schematic overview of Hessling's career and some other ones that she was not in, and then these 2 roles. That is on screen. So my homage to Catherine Hessling ends here. I'm remembering her as a strong force in co-creating characters that she and Jean Renoir, to begin with, worked through together, drawing on her experience modeling that inspired Auguste Renoir's many transformations of her in his paintings, but also her training maybe subsequently in ballet and as an equestrian. That kind of gracefulness which you can see in many of her kind of movements, rounded almost movements. This formation that she was developing with Renoir continued, I believe, in her films with Cavalcanti and with others. The press, in any event, and many critics at the time appreciated Hessling's way of being unconventional, and some people later on. The end.